Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Whitetail Watch. We are kind of stuck in a holding pattern on our hunting right now. I mean, we've been out checking cameras, doing a little bit of hunting, and what we feared most has been what we've found, and that is that the bucks that were on daylight patterns have stopped. Somewhere around the 25th or so of September, all of us lost those daylight bucks on our cameras. And the season came in on the 1st, and we were excited about hunting it, and it was 90 degrees, so we did, struggle from that standpoint. So I wouldn't say that what we saw during the first couple of days here of October is any representation because of the heat, but we're also fighting that October lull. And that's really, I think, the main thing that's determining what we're going to do over the next 10 to 15 days. So we'll hear from our sponsors quick, and then we're going to come back and talk about what's going on and what we're going to do about it. Hoyt's Bow Hunting Whitetails is brought to you by Redneck Blinds, Code of Silence Apparel, Hunt Stand Pro Whitetail, Fuse Accessories, Elevate Tree Stands, B3 Releases and Broadheads, and Hoyt. So we were talking about what happened to these bucks. Where did the bucks go? And it wasn't just daylight activity on the cameras. It was all mature buck activity. I just pulled mine this morning. I pulled cards. I pulled some yesterday. Today is Wednesday the 4th. So not only am I not getting the daylight, I'm just not getting hardly any mature buck photos even at night. So is that kind of, again, I'm throwing it back to the crowd. I already know what the answer is going to be because we've talked about it, but that's where you guys are at too, right?
Yeah, we pulled cameras this morning, and the last, mature buck we had on camera was the 26 as well in daylight.
Yeah. Are you still seeing any at night?
A couple of my cameras have been completely dead, like of any mature deer at all.
Yeah, and that's what I'm seeing. I mean, the other thing that I'm noticing is like the buck that we were targeting for Jordan, that deer was on a really tight pattern. I mean, I felt like that was a killable buck.
It was like clockwork too. Every single day, same time, same place.
Yep.
For a couple weeks or 10 days or so, pretty consistently. Then it was just
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just pulled that card down in the valley. He was on there every single night between 10 o'clock at night and midnight. Well, for 4 straight days, he hasn't been on there at all. So it has nothing to do with hunting pressure, because we haven't hunted him yet. Mm-hmm. We were going to, but we didn't because of the heat. And then your shoulder was sore. Mm-hmm. But it's just the physiology of these deer. So this is the October lull. We need to talk about it really quick. And then we need to talk about the weather forecast and this cold front that's coming in, because these are almost like two opposing forces. Like, which one is going to dominate? Like, what are we going to play? Which one? Are we going to play the October lull and hang back and be cautious and wait? Or are we going to play the cold front and be aggressive and go after them? So October lull, the biologists say there is not an October lull. They say that the bucks are on their feet for the same amount of time during the day in all parts of October as they were in, say, mid-September. And my answer to that was always, well, come and look at my trail camera photos. I've seen it every single year. I mean, it's not like an anomaly.
And it seems like maybe they're on their feet, but that doesn't mean that they're moving or traveling very far.
And I think that's what it is. Yep. So that's where, because they have these radio telemetry studies, and they can pull data that I don't have access to. All I have access to is what's on my cameras, and my cameras say that there is an October lull, and it's about 3 weeks long. It starts, unfortunately, right about opening day, October 1, and runs until sometime in around the 20th or a few days after. The number of mature bucks I've killed during that 3-week time frame is really, really low. Like, it's 2 or 3 in 40 plus years of bow hunting. And that's not because I haven't tried. In some cases I've been, I've kept back, but usually it's because there's nothing to go after. Because they just aren't showing any kind of vulnerability during that time. So to hunt them during this quote unquote October lull, we would have to go in after them. And that's the risk versus reward that maybe Alex plays a little bit differently than the rest of us because he's focusing on the public land. So I mean, it's hard to justify going into a bedding area when you don't have anything that suggests that there's a buck worth hunting there, because you know you're going to leave scent. You know when it comes to the end of legal shooting time, you're going to bump something on the way out. You know, how do you reconcile that risk with some hope of reward? I guess my position is you just don't take the risk. You wait, you hunt other places, you hunt your spots that aren't that great, hoping to shoot a couple of does, maybe get a freebie buck, I know, out of nowhere. But you save the spots where you know these bucks live until such time as they start showing more movement again.
Is that pertaining to the October lull in general, or is that specifically this year with the cold front forecast too, or is that you gonna treat that differently?
We're going to come back to that forecast, but in general, that's the October lull. That's kind of my philosophy on how you hunt October. If you don't have something that's really, really encouraging, you wait, because it's only going to keep getting better. The only reason it doesn't get better is if you burn it out. You know, so that's always the downside risk. Or, you know, in Alex's case, you know, if somebody else burns it out. You know, and that's the crappy part of it, is you have to not only play your own impact, but the impact of other people. And I would suspect that it's dropping off, is it?
Yeah, it seemed to. Like you mentioned, we're going to just keep trying to get aggressive, you know, pick around at the edges. And it's kind of nice because we don't have a specific buck we're hunting. So, you know, if we end up bumping the deer walking in, it's not the end of the world. It's not like we have a target buck that's not daylight right now. So
Yeah, and plus you can go and hunt someplace else.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that does create a little bit of freedom. It's not fun necessarily to be competing with other people, you know, but you do have a little bit more freedom, you know, of where you can go and what you can do. So we've got this very prominent cold front coming in that's going to factor into a lot of people's mindset of what they think they should do, because people love to hunt the cold fronts, and rightfully so. You know, it's more comfortable, generally the deer move better. So which of these two opposing forces is going to control it? Is it going to be the October lull and the fact that these bucks are really kind of underground for now, or is it going to be the cold front that might spur some daytime activity out of nowhere? I think the further into October you get with these cold fronts, the better. You know, I think these really early October cold fronts aren't nearly as powerful to bring out that activity as what they will be a little bit later. I think the October lull, in my experience, is so dominant in their behavior right now. So I think you do hunt, you know, you definitely don't sit this out. You just got to be a little bit more careful. Don't assume that now is the moment to be aggressive. I would say maybe you're more controlled. Don't hunt like deep or go into some of your best spots right now thinking that this is the trigger that's going to kick them off, because it's just a kind of a false trigger.
So you'd say at this point the lull, quote unquote, outweighs the power of the cold front, but if it were, say, like the 15th or the 18th, you might say it's more of an equal battle / cold front might win out.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think this time of the year, for whatever reason, has just proven to be so frustrating to me. The earliest I've ever killed a mature buck in October was the 14th. I've killed on the 14th, the 18th, the 23rd, but never have I had any opportunities nor killed anything prior to the 14th. Doesn't mean it can't happen. You know, it surely can, and we're probably going to go out this evening, you know, just to see what we can see, you know, and maybe we'll be the, you know, exception to the rule. But so our takeaway is don't put too much stock into this cold front. This isn't the one you've been waiting your whole life for. That's coming down the road a little ways. Be more careful and just hunt, but don't be in a spot where if you don't kill him, you run the risk of spooking him. You know, you want to be in a spot that's pretty easy to hunt, easy to get in and out of. You got a safe wind blowing. If you get lucky, great. Shoot a couple does or a doe, or have a good evening sitting out. You know, that's what this is about. Well, we appreciate you joining us. We'll see you right back here again next week for, well, let's see, we got bow hunting whitetails coming on Monday, and we're going to have some hunting action, you know, for better or for worse, because we are going to hunt over the next few days. But We'll be back again with the next episode of the Whitetail Watch next Wednesday. Do we say dream big on these?
I think we always do, yeah.
I think we have to.
Okay, so we'll see you in a week for the next episode of the Whitetail Watch, and remember to always
Dream big.